In an effort to reduce the harmful experiences occurring in psychiatric hospitals, compassionate alternatives are being created around the world.
Even at some government levels, you had this program in Norway where the government ordered medication-free wards for people who don't want to be on the meds. The idea is, A, let's keep people out of the hospital. B, let's see if we can turn these into episodic problems, not just see them as chronic illnesses. And 3, drugs are more of a tool as opposed to the answer in these places.
The process is to be with people rather than to do to them.
I have a story about my mother and I, like years later. She said, well, what should I have done? Should I have taken you home and held you and let you cry? And I said, yeah, that would have been the best thing to do. And she said, I'm sorry, I was misinformed by the doctors.
For people who need a respite from their lives, it's important to ask, what would you want that to look like?
If someone says, I really want to go to the hospital, usually people will say, okay, and not question it too much, or they'll argue with them and say how they don't need it. But rarely will they say, why? What do you get out of that? What do you like about being there? What is useful to you? And then finding those pieces and seeing if they can exist elsewhere.
I needed someone to look me in the eye and say, Erik, it's okay for you to do absolutely nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to buy your own food. You don't have to get a job. You can just be depressed. We'll get through this. It's okay.
Have a place where people can go, where it was quiet, or where they could go and get their emotions out on a punching bag. If they're sad, a weeping room. Places where people are safe to express their emotions.
The online space has been helpful to people. That same atmosphere and environment that's online, to have that in person with people would be huge. For people to go to and to have their experiences and to have all kinds of different alternative therapies too.
Dream world, there would be sweet, soothing people, access to music, hot tubs, and a nice little place to walk in the woods. And just take the time you need and you'll be done. If I had been in even a reasonable medical situation where I was talked to about what medications work for me and what doesn't, and I was given an opportunity to sleep, and I was treated with some form of respect and communication, I could have been out of there in a week or two.
If you stay calm and centered and treat them like, they're a human being, and they respond in a way that they start calming down too. One of the most important things is really acknowledging their experience, because it is valid to the person.
The best kind of help, I think, would have been from someone who had been through something similar and really valued that experience and would be able to say, wow, what you just went through was a really important experience. Let's talk about it. Let's discover what it means together.
In an ideal world, there would be no more force. You would sit with a doctor and they would say, what would you like to see? What would you like your treatment to be? Do you want to take meds or you don't? Oh, I don't? Okay, let's do this.
We need to do a lot more listening when people are going through things like this rather than suppressing and pathologizing.
One form of crisis support comes from the model of soteria houses, which employ primarily non-medical staff and view extreme emotional distress not as a disease, but as a developmental crisis with positive learning potential when provided a safe space. 2 random assignment studies of the soteria model showed that roughly 85 to 90% of individuals could return to the community without use of conventional hospital treatment.
Soteria has been around since the 70s. In California, a psychiatrist named Lauren Mosher started a soteria house and did much research. So there was a lot of evidence showing that not using medications for first break psychosis would be helpful. And the idea is that you don't have to deprogram them from getting the medical model program. You don't have to deprogram them from believing that they're broken and that they have a brain disorder and that they haven't gotten those messages already. We've been open for a little over 2 years and served about 30 people. It's a 5-bed residence. A lot of mental health facilities will be out in the country somewhere. For us, what we looked for was, is it on the bus lines? Is it near a grocery store? Can people still be part of their community? We shoot for 3 to 6 months. We only have 5 beds. That's part of it, but we don't force anybody to leave. It's really based on what somebody's experience is. Part of our job at Soteria is to be with people, whatever that looks like. So being parallel to whatever it is they're doing or being. Everybody's an individual and everyone has different needs coming in. There's so much healing that can occur just by that experience of non-judgmental community. At night, there's always 2 staff on. During the day, there could be 3 or 4. We have a part-time nurse, and we have a psychiatrist who's available. It's not a very big house. There's a living room and a dining room area. We have the purple room. It used to be called the rage room when we first started. Now we have gym mats up on the walls. We have a punching bag hanging in the hallway. We have art supplies available, musical instruments. It's a home-like setting. It just makes total sense. How can somebody try to negotiate that experience in a white-walled room where they're locked up and their personal possessions are taken away from them? They're shut away from their friends and families. It doesn't even make sense. The medical model version of how to manage and support an experience of psychosis.
Similar projects to Soteria include John Weirr Perry's Diabasis House and the I Ward, both of which existed in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1970s and 80s. Today, a small number of Soteria houses exist in the US, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Switzerland, and Hungary. Next, we will discuss the open dialogue approach, a crisis intervention technique developed in Lapland, Finland, that has been spreading worldwide.
An open dialogue within a family system, an open dialogue on a psychiatric ward. That's what we do. I guess those are great 2 words, because that's what Alternative Suicide Group is. It's an open dialogue. That's what this meeting is. It's an open dialogue. It's what friendships are. It's open dialogue. It's what positive, healthy relationships are. They're all open dialogues.
I truly believe that's one of the big problems in society today is our inability to communicate with each other. I can't talk to my family. They don't talk back. We don't resolve the family issues that we all were a part of growing up. We don't know how to speak together as a family unit. We weren't taught that.
Once people can talk about whatever got the psychosis going, it often doesn't need to express itself in psychosis anymore.
Open dialogue has impressive outcomes. After 5 years, 82% of participants had no remaining psychotic symptoms, and 86% had returned to full employment. Only 29% had used psychiatric drugs.
When open dialogue started, it started in the 80s with the deinstitutionalization of a very, very, very chronic hospital. People were not expected to ever leave. And there were like 300 people in it, something like that. And the decision was made to deinstitutionalize and help those people move into the community. And the team that helped those people move into the community were the team that began open dialogue. If somebody calls us looking for services, if they call me, I'll put them in touch with one of these 2 clinicians. The clinician will talk to the family member on the phone, or the person at the center of concern on the phone, see if they want to have a meeting. Depending how the situation sounds, either the 2 clinicians will go meet with the network in the person's home, or invite them to come in and meet with them in a more clinical setting and promote each person's point of view, not valuing one over another, but kind of trying to amplify the voice of the person at the center of concern. There's always more than one clinician in the meeting. And that's important because it enables the clinicians to engage in a process that's called reflection, in which, like if you guys were the family, we might say, if you don't mind, I'm gonna just talk to Keegan for a minute or two, and if you don't mind, I'm not even going to look at you. I'm going to look at Keegan. She's going to look at me. We're going to talk together as if you weren't here. And then if you want to, you'll have an opportunity to comment or disagree or whatever. But this way, you'll have an opportunity to know what we're thinking and feeling. And then we would turn to each other and just talk. You know, Keegan, when Jim was talking, I was thinking about how brave he's been to survive all that's gone on in the last year. And at the same time, I have like this knot in my stomach. And I think what it's about is I know that Jim hates the hospital, and for good reason. But I think my knot is I'm worried that he might not be telling us how bad he's actually feeling for fear that we might actually put him in the hospital. Then Keegan would respond, but back we'd go. Then we could turn back to you guys, and you would have a chance to say whatever you felt like saying. But it would be completely transparent to you and your family what we were thinking and feeling. I love the idea of creating a service that meets people when they're in crisis and comforts them, but also helps them use the momentum of the crisis to maybe make some personal changes. It's by no means a magic bullet, but it's by far and away the most humane, the most humane way, I think, of helping people figure out what path they want to take when they're confronted with a destiny that involves extreme states. I have no doubt if I or a family member had extreme states, this is the model I would want.
One message is clear. Recovery is not only possible without psychiatric hospitalization, it is also common. After surviving their crisis, what are people doing to heal and maintain balance through their journey? We will explore this question in our next segment.